What is happening, everybody, and welcome back to the first edition of Bayside Chats. I'm Stephen Rissotto, and today Natasha and I chatted with Jalal Leach, a pro scout for the San Francisco Giants. He's been with them for a few years. He was also a former Major League Baseball player, got a cup of coffee with the Giants in 2001 during that historic postseason run for the Giants and record-setting year for San Francisco. We talked to him about scouting, his job, so many more other things. Coming up next, let's get started. All right, well, Jalal Leach, we definitely appreciate you joining us. It's definitely a privilege. How's it going?
Thanks for having me. A little cool out here today.
Why don't we start with maybe an intro you can tell us about yourself for everyone?
My name is Jalal Leach. I was born in San Francisco, California. Grew up in a town called Novato in Marin County. I played just like everyone my age, when I was that age, played all the different sports. I was fortunate to get a baseball scholarship to Pepperdine University out of high school. Played 3 years there, then got drafted by the New York Yankees. Went into the minor leagues with the mindset of if I don't make it to the big leagues in 4 years, I was going to do something else that I don't know or didn't know. Got to AAA relatively quick. Was put on the 40-man roster, major league roster. And then I was stuck in Yankee land. And from there, I bounced around. I went to the Montreal Expos, who are now the Washington Nationals. Then I signed on as a minor league free agent with the Seattle Mariners, played a year there in AAA. Then signed back. And right before spring training, I was traded to the Giants. And from 98 to 2001, I was in AA, AAA, and eventually got a call to the big leagues with the Giants. And I even had a month and a half stint as a hitting coach for the San Jose Giants. So I went from playing to brief coaching to back to playing to the big leagues. That was my only stint in 2001. And that was the same year that Barry Bonds broke the single season home run record. Bounced around a few more years. I think I signed with the Cubs, the Mariners, again, all AAA, then went to finish off in the Mexican Summer League and called it a wrap.
So, is it a fair assessment to call yourself well-traveled?
No doubt.
You obviously just came back from somewhere really warm, Curacao. How was that? What was the trip like and what was it for?
My old teammate and former Giants hitting coach, bench coach, 3-time world champion, Hensley Meulens, he has been putting on this annual clinic for the kids of Curacao. He's from Curacao, and he's the first major leaguer from the island of Curacao. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Curacao, it is, I believe it's east of Aruba, just a little bit to the north, 40 miles to the north of Venezuela. So it's a Caribbean country. I think they were a colony to the Netherlands. So there's that tie there. And surprisingly, they have the most major leaguers per capita of, I believe, any country in the world. So guys like Kenley Jansen, Andrew Jones, Ozzie Albies, Jerkson Profar, Alexander Bogarts. I know I'm missing some. And Dralton Simmons. They are all from there. And they're, really good players come from there. So we did a week-long camp / vacation, because we were on an island and there was the beach and Hensley had a host of things for us to do. So I begged him and pleaded with him, please, can I return in 2000, I guess, 24, 25. And he said he would consider having me come back because it was a miraculous trip. So now coming back home to Northern California, we're probably 30, 40 degree temperature drop.
Yeah.
And I wish I was still on the island right now.
Yeah. And you mentioned like Curacao is just producing a bunch of baseball talent. I guess how important is that, kind of getting a taste of it now? How important is the international baseball market in terms of getting them turned on to baseball? Like a lot of countries, especially in the Caribbean, are well ingrained in baseball and they're just so passionate about it. But how important is it for MLB to appeal to kind of a broader audience outside the United States?
Well, just like I'll use the NBA. You know, it's just a matter of growing the game, introducing it to the kids on the grassroots level, and seeing if they can develop, you know, years down the road. Because my thought process is there's always someone who can throw a ball 95 miles an hour that maybe just don't know the game of baseball, but they have the arm speed naturally to throw a ball that hard. But it's just a matter of finding and identifying that person and teaching them the game of baseball, or someone with phenomenal hand-eye coordination as far as hitting is concerned. So it's just, you know, how big does MLB want to grow the game? It is huge, like you said, in Latin America and the Pacific Rim. It's huge. Australia has developed some major leaguers. So it's just really how far does MLB want to grow the game?
My parents are originally from India, and there was a movie that came out like maybe 10 years ago about how they did a game show in India trying to find someone who could throw like 95 miles per hour because cricket is so big there and people throw pretty fast, albeit in a different motion. And I always think that's so interesting that, like, to your point, it's really like it's two basic skills. You either can throw really hard or, you know, you just have really solid hand-eye coordination. You can hit so well. I guess that kind of like takes us to now your job, scouting. Are there things, even when you're down there working with kids that young, that like particular skills you're looking for in them or trying to grow in them as they're so young?
Well, I'm a major league scout, so I scout current teams, their organizations, but I've been in the space of training kids since I retired in 2004. My brother and I, we once had a baseball school here in Sacramento. So from 2004 to 2019. So we've trained kids, with 14 of them playing and at reaching the major league level. So we've seen a lot. And I think for me, it's really having the passion for the game first and foremost. I mean, you got to love it, just like, you know, anything if you want to be good at it. Secondly, it's just, you know, the tools as the kids move along, you know, can they throw or do they have the hand-eye to bat? So it's hard for me. It's hard to determine at a young age, but you can see as they get closer or into high school who may have a chance to carry on with it. But again, it comes down to passion and the love of the game.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, it's a long season, year after year after year. So a lot of time commitment, a lot of work people put into it. The baseball season is extremely long, and you have to be dedicated, and you have to find ways to motivate yourself every day to perform.
And specifically those, you know, I guess they're not kids, but the teenagers that you work with quite a bit. Is there a difference into the way they approach the game compared to, like, you know, maybe you and your friends at that age? Because I know a lot of the old heads always talk about social media and how that's influenced and how kids aren't getting outside enough. Is there a difference on a baseball scale with the youth that you work with?
Well, I think now we're specializing sports more. So I think at a younger age, parents are putting their kids in one sport specifically, right, wrong, or indifferent. I mean, in my era, we played whatever was in season. So right now it's winter. I was on the hardwood hooping. So, you know, and then spring rolled around as baseball season. And through spring and the summer, fall was football seasons. But now it's a lot of year-round baseball. Not sure if that benefits a younger kid because they run the risk of burnout. But, you know, a kid in high school or thinks he may have a chance to go on with it, I can see some benefits of specializing on one sport. But for the little guys, they need to still have fun and go to Disneyland and ride their bike and do other stuff, because it's just doing something year round at such a young age for anyone, I think could be difficult to see if they could stick with it, downline.
No doubt. And I think one of the other things that like we wanted to talk to you about is your job as a pro scout. And, you know, I guess how many games do you think a year do you hit up on average? Are you working?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh man. I don't know, 100, 150. Yeah, I would say 150 around there, maybe a little more. I'd have to sit down and think about that one. But, you know, it's a part of the routine of the season. So once you get going, you know, from spring training on into the regular season, you know where you have to go and what you have to do. So you just follow the script. And I don't count the days down. You know, it's just really a lot of it is, you know your coverage and what you have to, who you have to see or where you have to go. And then you're also paying attention to your major league team, hoping they're playing well and in contention, because in the past I've worked for teams that have been in the hunt, and that's really exciting when, you know, you have a team that's chasing not just the playoffs, but, you know, the division, and then hopefully, getting to the World Series, which I haven't experienced yet, but that to me should be the end game goal always and all the time, is the World Series, being on top at the end.
Is it, so do you cover a specific region that you don't have to travel too far outside of, or are you doing a lot of travel for all of those?
Well, last year I came back to the Giants, where I was Miami the previous 4, and we did organizational coverage. So last year I did Toronto Blue Jays system, New York Yankees system, and the Baltimore Orioles system. So there's a lot of traveling as we went down as far down as the Dominican Summer League, and then you have to hit all their minor league affiliates, which are scattered all over the place. Yeah. So, you know, there's a lot of travel. But again, you know, in my type of coverage, the series now in the minor leagues are 6 days. So you pretty much are going to one specific town for 6 days straight, and you're watching the team you're covering and then the opposing team. There's usually targets on their squad as well. So it's pretty straightforward.
And when you say targets, is that a direction coming from the organization? Hey, we want you to look at this particular position, this particular player, or are you just kind of there, like, you know, seeing what catches your eye?
We do target base. So on each team at each level, they have the players have prospect value, whether it's analytics, media driven. So you just have to see what the front office, they create the list and you follow it. You can go off the list, and if you see someone that you think can play, and they're not a target, you definitely should and can write them up, because they may be a player that's just undervalued and you know, just hasn't popped yet, but you want to put them on the radar, because you never know when you get in trade conversation and you may ask for a guy and his team may not even realize that he's a player, and then you acquire him, and then the next thing you know, he's in the big leagues. Prime example for me is Mike Yastrzemski. I mean, the Giants got him from Baltimore, and I remember I was working for another organization. I saw him here in Sacramento, and I liked him, but he wasn't playing every day. So it was like, well, if he's not playing every day in the minor leagues, you know, I liked him as just a AAA protection player, and he worked hard. He played hard. I asked the coaches about him. They all liked him. You know, that year, next thing you know, a few injuries. He got his opportunity to go up to San Francisco. The rest is history. You know, in hindsight, Baltimore's probably thinking, wow, we had this guy and we just let him walk out the door. And that happens more times than not. And to me, that's good evaluation, whether it's scouting or analytics or sometimes just luck, you know, and identifying a guy like that. And another player, Lamont Wade, similar situation. So I feel like scouting, as long as you have human beings playing, you really need scouts to sit out in the ballpark. And if the analytics are starting to pop and if you can marry them both, then you might find something, that another team is not valuing.
A lot of people feel like analytics in general has changed every facet of the game. Do you feel like as a scout, it's changed a lot more recently, or that it's always kind of been part of how you do your job?
I think analytics numbers have always been there. We've always looked at numbers. Maybe now they're putting more twists onto it, but it's helpful. It's a tool, but until we have the AI player or the robots out there playing, they're humans. And I played, so I know a lot what's going on in their mind. And I was fortunate to play in the major leagues for Dusty Baker, longtime future Hall of Famer. And he used to say to me, things like, he always checked in with the players on a personal level and not so much what they were doing on the field, because if things are going on off the field for that player, they come onto the field. If someone's got, a parent sick at home or their child is sick or something, a lot of times that shows up on the field, and the analytics don't tell you that. So for me, having scouts that can go in these ballparks, whether they can, know a coach on the staff or watch how a player's moving around in person with the eye, could really help and save an organization from making a misstep. So again, I believe you need scouts to sit and watch humans move around. And, it's like, for me, it's like buying a car off the internet. It looks great on the pictures and everything, and it shows all the bells and whistles, but we really don't know what kind of car we're getting until we drive it. So for me, it's the same concept. You need to go watch these players perform, do their thing live and in person before you try to acquire, or else you might get that lemon car, that looked good on the internet.
Yeah. Do you feel like that's still the philosophy of Major League Baseball? Like everyone pretty much is still on the same page about, scouting being human-led, being important?
I think the good teams are doing that. They're marrying both. I think some teams have maybe swung the pendulum too far to the analytics. Maybe some teams are still, but I think everyone's catching up too far to the scout. I think the smart club will marry both. And if you're going to marry the analytics with what your scouts are seeing, I think you have a better chance on hitting on the players than going one way or the other.
There's a story where I played baseball in high school, and I heard from a coach who was also kind of in the realm of evaluating talent at that level. And he was saying that he was at a showcase and there's a kid that missed a fly ball. And when he missed the fly ball, he slammed his glove on the ground and yelled a few expletives or whatever. Now, I'm sure that's more prevalent on the amateur side. I know you're a professional scout and everything. And I guess this might kind of go into the question of, well, what is makeup? So I'm going to ask you, is that considered makeup? Do you pay attention to how players communicate with their teammates? Maybe a guy just struck out, how he's acting after a strikeout, or is that maybe something that is focused on a little bit before by amateur scouts?
Well, piggybacking on what you said, if that's a high school age kid, that'd just be immaturity. He just might not be mature.
He probably wouldn't even have gotten to you at that point.
Exactly. So for me, if that kid can run like Willie Mays and hit the ball as far as Ohtani, I'm probably going to overlook him slamming his glove. So the tools are always going to outweigh.
He could slam your glove.
Yeah, exactly. The makeups,
Yeah.
And, a longtime scout told me a long time ago, he said, you're a scout, not a psychologist. So stick to the tools. So when I evaluate, I stick to the tools. Yes, if I find out something about if he has a bad attitude or makeup or something along those lines, I might put that in the sidebar in the evaluation, but I do not hold that against him, because that guy might be the difference in you going to the World Series or not. So for me to hold it against, however he looks, wears his uniform or his attitude, if you can play, you can play. And my job is to find players for my club to win the World Series. So, makeup, yes, it's important. Yes, we want guys with great makeup, but at the end of the day, I want guys with tools and loud tools, guys who can throw the ball like a Aroldis Chapman. And again, hit it like Ohtani or play like Trout and Mookie Betts. Those are guys I'm always hunting.
The Giants are obviously in the off season. Everyone's in the off season. Is there an off season for you, or are you always on?
Well, what we've done in our department is we've done some video reports periodically. So basically, the scouting director and his assistant will send us out names, and we'll just, in our system in the back office, there's videos. So you go through and you just write, as if I were in the ballpark, a report based upon the video of the player. Now, for me, again, I can do it via video, but I would feel a lot more confident, especially on players I've never seen before, to go sit and watch this guy, see how he really moves in real time, see how he reacts in the dugout in real time, how he competes when the competition is tough in real time, when the stadium is cheering, or is he performing when the game is basically decided and everyone's trying to go home. So again, I can do it via the video, but I feel a lot more confident watching someone live and in person.
A strikeout in the first inning in a scoreless game is much different than a strikeout late in the game in a big spot with the bases loaded. So is that stuff that maybe you can't see on, with the numbers specifically?
Yes. I mean, that's just, the clutch factor. And, again,
is clutch real?
Clutch is real. Because there's some guys who can, deliver when the game is on the line, and then there's some guys that get hits. Oh, wow, he had a nice year, but, he was doing it when the game was already decided, and that probably happens, I would think, more with pitchers, because someone has to pitch these innings. So a leveraged pitcher, the guys who work in the whole situation, seventh, eighth, up to the closer, that's when the game is tight. Those are the guys you're hunting for, whereas a guy who comes in when the game is decided and we're just trying to get the game over with, and maybe he strikes out the side. Maybe there's something there, but then again, you need to see what he can do in the pressure situation for me. And that's, again, going out to the ballpark, watching these guys perform night in and night out, and see who wants the ball. Guys who get for a relief pitcher who's not afraid to take the ball multiple nights and will compete multiple nights is huge, because over the course of the major league season, there's 1,400 plus innings, and someone has to pitch these innings. So having guys who are available and durable are huge. That's why for me, starting pitching is at the top of my list all the time. You need starters, and a lot of them, to get the bulk of these innings over the course of the season, and to prevent your bullpen from wearing down. Because if you're using your bullpen a lot, for me, there's a great chance that later in the season, August, September, those guys' arms are going to wear down and their velocity is going to drop, and then they're going to be more susceptible to getting hit.
Well, the Giants saw that last season, obviously. For you, starting pitching is so important. Do you feel like the Giants are focused enough on that right now, going into the next season and the next few seasons?
I think we are. We have some prospects on the come up. I know we're still in the market trying to sign starting pitching, but I believe from the pitching standpoint, give me a strong starting rotation that's going to create a good bullpen. So yes, you want a closer. We have one, Camilo Duvall. Yes, we have good arms down there, the Roger brother, etc. But for me, it starts with the starting pitch. Give me more Logan Webbs. Give me guys like that. If you have two other guys like Logan Webb, there's a good chance that you can get to the finish line and be in contention going down the stretch. Right. For a 7:00 game, so no one was there except for Mike Murphy. And, I went in his office and he, congrats.